What's going on, everyone? It's Robert Hall, and today I am doing a video about reflectors, these type of reflectors that go over your bare bulb strobes. Now, there are all sorts of reflectors out there, and Godox recently sent out about 4 or 5 new types of reflector designs as part of their Pro series of reflectors, and I've had some experiences recently, such as using this one, where it just gives me way more output than a standard reflector that goes on the 8600 Pro, or even the previous standard that went on lights like the Godox 8600. So I actually have a special need for reflectors, so I figured this would be a good time to just try them all out and figure out which is best for this application, but also be able to apply this and show you guys what these different reflectors do. And the reason that there's a ladder right here is because today I want to find out which reflector is going to work best for my 2 background lights, which I've mounted up at the top of my ceiling in my studio. And the whole purpose of those is to light the background that I have on this wall or this wall without having to set up an overhead boom rig or have to deal with the issues of lighting a background from the side. I want something up above that just stays there permanently. So we've got 2 MS300s up above that I want to figure out which one of these I need a second one of because it works best for my backgrounds. All right, so the reflectors that we have to test out. We've got standard 7-inch reflector. This is what used to come with the Godox original 8600, the non-pro version. Then we've got the Godox 8600 Pro reflector, still Bowens mount, a little bit more of a compact reflector, but very similar in terms of what it produces. It's just optimized for the bare bulb on the 600 Pro instead. All right, next up we have what is called the RFT19 Pro reflector from Godox. If you've seen this already, it comes with lights such as the Godox VL series, the VL150, 200, and 300 for those LEDs, and it's just widely recognized as putting out a ton of light for those LEDs, which makes sense given the pattern on the inside. It looks like it would work well with a COB, but surprisingly, it also works great with any type of bare bulb strobe such as 8200 Pro, 600 Pro, anything like that. This still kicks out a ton of light, more than these little guys. So you would think that at some point they should probably just switch to these. Working backwards, we have the RFT18. This is a background reflector, and the whole point of it, if I were the background, you would set up a light like this or maybe like this, either way. But the reason that it's taller in the back is just so it doesn't let any light go back towards the camera. So you can even put this on a ground on a really short stand, and I've mounted it overhead and flipped it. And these are all great ways to light a background without any light spilling back towards your subject, so long as your subject is in front of it. Another handy thing is that it comes with these clips if you're mounting a gel over it, and it's white on the interior, so it's not exactly an output king, but it is really good at doing its job of lighting a background evenly. I almost forgot I had this one stuck away in the back. This is the RFT 17 Pro. I don't think this one's going to work for this application at all. It's designed to work well with a umbrella. So it's got nice hardy umbrella mount on it. A lot of people don't like the spring style. This actually has a screw that you can tighten down, so you can really secure an umbrella in there. And yeah, you can see the really highly polished, finished interior. Next up, we have the RFT14 Pro. This is a 60-degree reflector, and there's also one that's very similar to it, a little bit shorter, a little bit wider. Shorter one is the RFT13. All right, so let's see what each of these does. I do want to briefly explain exactly what I'm looking for here, because whatever I pick, it might not necessarily be the best for all applications, but the application I'm looking for is for this light up here that's pointed to the wall to evenly light this entire wall, not the entire wall, but at least wide enough for the background. But at the same time, it can't spill so wide that it illuminates my subject. So if we just left it bare bulb right now and I was directly underneath it, that light is just gonna cast a really downward shadow on me. We don't want that. And that's the same thing that can happen with the reflector if the reflector has too wide of a pattern of light. So I want just tight enough to miss my subject, who's going to be in this area or possibly a little bit further forward, but still light my background really evenly. All right, let's start with the original standard reflector for the Godox 8600. Okay, so for each of these, I'm going to do a power test right in the middle of the backdrop, exactly where the bare bulb is pointed, and then I'm going to take a test shot so we can see the coverage. Light is at full power. It's a MS300. We are getting ISO 100, 1/250th of a second, f8 and 3/10 of a stop. So I'm gonna take a shot at f9 here. Okay, looking at the result, definitely does a fantastic job at covering the entire background. Looks like it goes to about a couple feet on either side before it starts vignetting and we get some light fall off, but there is still a little bit of light leaking onto my subject right on the top on his head. So I don't think this one's gonna quite cover it. I need something to be a little bit more narrow in coverage. All right, so now I just put on the 600 Pro standard reflector. Now that's not exactly designed for this head type, so I don't know what type of results we're gonna get here. But last one was f8 and 3/10 of a stop. Same, f8 and 3/10 of a stop. So I'm gonna keep my settings the same on the camera, f9. All right, same story, maybe even a little bit more light leak on this one, but really good coverage across the background to the point where I'm starting to think I could probably solve a lot of problems just by moving this in a little bit. I don't have a great place to mount it on this one if I move it in, but you know, something could be rigged up. We could put some type of stand that comes out a little bit further, evenly light this entire background, but be a little bit deeper so that it's not casting on my subject. So that's also an option, is moving the light. Okay, this is the RFT19 reflector, the one that comes with the Godox VL300, the one that seems like it's more designed for LEDs. Online, it says that this is a 30-degree reflector, and I don't think so. When I've used it previously, it's roughly the same as a standard reflector, and I think we'll see the same thing here. But what is true about this is it says that it's designed maximum polish, maximum brightness, and it definitely does that. This is a lot more powerful than the standard reflectors, and I've begun using this when I need more output. We'll show you guys exactly how much. Really powerful. F11 and 2/10 of a stop. That is almost a full stop brighter than either of the standard reflectors from the 600 and 600 Pro. As of right now, this is looking like my best option. In terms of characteristics of light, still lighting up more than I need it to, like well beyond my backgrounds, and it's doing it pretty evenly. For how clean my subject looks, so far this is looking like the best option. Okay, next up I've got the RFT17 Pro umbrella, and in the website description, it says that this is a 110-degree reflector, which would be really wide, like almost twice as wide as some of the standard reflectors. So we'll see if it's that much wider and what the light output is like. F8 and 3/10, so it's exactly the same as the two standard reflectors and still a stop less than the last reflector that we used, the RFT19. A little bit of specularity on the top of the subject's head, but more concerning is the halo-like effect. I'm not gonna be using this one for a background, and also it does not seem like it's that much wider than the standard reflectors, but it's got this little halo effect, so I would keep this to its original purpose, which is for an umbrella. That umbrella will even out that light spread for you, so you don't have to worry about that kind of halo effect that I got. Next up, we've got the RFT14 Pro reflector, and this one is billed as a 60-degree reflector, but so far none of these have been really much wider or more narrow than each other. They all put out roughly the same wide pattern of light. Output check. F8 and 9/10 of a stop, so this one is pretty darn bright. Again, very even, again, very wide. Actually, this one looks a little bit wider than the standard reflectors. Like the fall off does not happen as fast. Finally, some key differences. I appreciate that. But again, a little bit of specularity on the subject's head, so I'm still looking at the VL300 one as my main option, the RFT19. Okay, we are now on the RFT13, very similar to the RFT14 that we just finished with, although a little bit shorter. Hey, yo, output check. I would be the only, wow! F11 and 5/10. We've got one that is even brighter than the RFT19 designed for the LEDs. That's encouraging. RFT13, output leader so far, guys. There's no light on my subject. There's a tiny bit, but no more than we got on the RFT19. So actually this one so far is my favorite. We just got a new leader since we've got a little bit more output. We only got MS300s up here, so output actually matters when we're trying to balance this light that's really far away with lights like our 8600 Pro and 81,200 Pro. But I also didn't want anything really heavy up here, which is why I went with this MS300. Okay, we're on to the RFT18 Pro background reflector, white interior, designed to light backgrounds. This one is going to require not only mounting it, but adjusting the position of the light. F8 and 8/10 of a stop, better than the standard reflectors, but still not quite as much as the others. It works really well though. We have no light on our subject and we've got a really evenly lit background all the way across the width of the background. If I have any big takeaways, it's that you should check this one out if you're just looking for maximum output. RFT 13 no longer is that RFT 19 the output king, so that was kind of a surprise. Background reflector is a very efficient way for you to light a background and have the ability to gel it. But actually, there's one thing that I don't quite love about it. Let me show you. Guess I have to go get it. All right, this is the background reflector mounted directly on an 8400 Pro. Now, if I put the bottom of the 8400 Pro directly towards you, does this look even to you? No, the bottom of the shape should be directly aligned with this, and it's not. And the interesting thing is that if I were to take this off, now it's perfectly aligned. When the Bowens mount is, it's in but not locked down, it is perfectly aligned, but that's not how we would use this, right? We would put it in and we would lock it, and now it's not centered. So not too bad. You just turn your light a little bit, but that's a little bit difficult when it's mounted upside down and above you. So I'm sending a Godox a message and I hope that they adjust that in their production of these. But yeah, as it stands right now, that's a little weird. And for that reason alone, I'll probably use the other reflector. All right, guys, I hope that this video was helpful to you in some way, shape, or form. Hopefully you learned a little bit about the differences in these modifiers. But honestly, a lot of these reflectors, as we've seen, even though they have these far different ratings, a majority of them lit the same space and roughly the same value. So I would just look at those standouts if you're trying to pick a purpose for each one. I think the umbrella one is best designed for use with an umbrella. And I think if anything else, that RFT 13, that's their power king. So if you're just looking for maximum light output, then check that one out. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you learned something about these different reflectors. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below, and feel free to leave any suggestions for other equipment that you want to see compared. If you want to see my future videos, make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications. Other than that, take it easy. Get after it, get growing, and